Okay, today we're going to be reviewing a Hail of Blades Braum game from one of my recent games to kind of take a look at how the rune that I recommended in my Braum guide is actually working in game and playing out in some different scenarios. And of course, since we're going to do the full VOD review, we might as well learn a little bit about Braum here as well. So I'll be pointing some other things out about Braum. A whopping 5% of my subscribers requested this Hail of Blades video, aka DJ Lightning Rhino was the one person who suggested this. 99.99999% of the people watching are not subscribed because we have 23 subscribers. So I'd really appreciate if you hit the like button and subscribe. Okay, so what we're going to be taking a look at here is a pretty decent game that I played the other day on Hail of Blades Braum, so we can kind of get an idea of how in-game the rune is actually performing. This game is a bit of a banger, and we are going to start out with some level 1 shenanigans up here in the top side. Again, I don't really like to invade or coin flip level 1, so I'm just, guarding our bot side entrance. But you'll see that once my 80 carry starts to get pulled up towards this fight that's occurring up here, I start to move up as well, at least so that I'm moving towards the fight in case it comes toward me, or at worst I'm like at least guarding our other jungle entrance, which is now abandoned, in case they decide to come over. So my team fights up here. I mean, you can see how close these level 1 fights always get. This is why I hate coin flipping them. But it's fine. So we get up here towards the end of the fight, which is not ideal, but I'm also the person guarding the spot that's farthest away from that, right? And we're able to sneak on right by into this bush. Now probably we can turn different vision on. I'm assuming they saw me on this ward here, but well, actually, they should see if maybe they thought I walked down here. So they see me come in here. So actually, MF's just blind. Maybe I guess they would see me exit here, probably. But MF ends up walking right into me here. And this is the first instance where we see Hail of Blades Braum in action. And this is actually one of its best spots. Is if you're doing any kind of level 1 cheese or bush cheese and somebody walks into you, it becomes incredibly powerful with Hail of Blades, even on your own, like in this situation. So you can see here the demonstration of how Hail of Blades works, right? Really what it enables you to do is if you're in a situation on Braum, your bread and butter combo is to auto somebody to apply the passive, Q them, and then auto them again. And there's a lot of reasons why you do that. One, obviously you have attack speed, so there's kind of a cooldown between your auto attacks, and by filling that cooldown with your Q, even though your Q is not an auto attack reset, it's basically buffering that timer with something else, or filling that timer when your auto attack's on cooldown with something else. And so auto Q auto is a great combo on Braum, and then like we just saw with Hail of Blades. Normally, if you auto-Q auto somebody on Braum, you're not going to be able to get the 4th auto on them to stun them and apply your passive. You need to rely on your 80 carry autoing them to get that 4th auto. And so in a best case scenario on Braum, somebody walks into you or you jump in and you get 3 stacks of your passive because you hit Q on them, but you need your 80 carry to follow up to get 4. Well, Hail of Blades changes all of that, because if you jump in and your 80 carry can't quite follow up, that one extra auto attack that it allows you to get in means that in this, auto Q auto situation, you're now able to auto Q auto and get the full stack of the passive yourself. Or if you're in a 1v1 scenario like this, it's going to enable me to chunk somebody, with my passive that I would have never been able to do without it. So yes, this is a really weird situation, but imagine that you're trying to cheese level 1 bot lane and they walk into you and try brush, or you're in here and you walk at them with Q. This is just really strong. I'll replay that because we've missed it over and over again. Now, another scenario that you could find yourself in on Braum, and again, we're imagining, because this is just one game and there's only going to be so many scenarios, but we're trying to imagine how Hail of Blades will change the gameplay for Braum. Another scenario that happens a lot is you'll be in bot lane and you'll W into a minion to try to engage on them, and you'll try to auto Q auto. So you W into a minion, you know, they're standing over here, you auto them, you Q, and then you auto. Well, a lot of times, unfortunately, you end up either missing the Q, or your Q gets buried into a minion. Sometimes you W to a minion and you have to Q first because they're actually a little bit too far away, so you're not quite able to get into auto attack range. So you might have to W here and then try to hit them with Q and then chase them down and auto them. In those situations where you're only getting like 2 stacks of your passive now, Hail of Blades is going to essentially, think of Hail of Blades as always making sure that you get 1 extra auto attack in to your combo. So again, we already covered the situation where Braum gets 3 attacks in, or three marks of his passive. So 3 attacks meaning 2 autos and a Q or whatever, or 3 auto attacks. Basically, any situation where Braum would have gotten 3 stacks of his passive before, Hail of Blades is going to up that to 4, which is really good because that's going to guarantee your passive in all of those situations, which is Braum's bread and butter combo, allows him to get 3 stacks of his passive. So if you're just able to execute your combo correctly on Braum, you're always stunning them with Hail of Blades now because you're getting that 4th auto in. Even in a worst case scenario, like I said, where you miss Q, you can just auto attack them over and over again, and your AD carry in most situations is going to be able to get the 1 auto attack off, right? And so in a lot of situations, it's allowing you to get an auto attack off, you know, where even if you miss Q, if you're able to get like 3 autos off on them, you may be able to stun them anyways, even though you miss Q, which is really big. The other thing that's important to note, it's just about to come off of cooldown. Hail of Blades is permanently on a 12-second cooldown, which I think is incredibly short. So one of the big differences between Guardian and Hail of Blades, you can see it just came up, there's like an animation. Right after I do that to MF, I'm actually able to walk into mid lane and do the same combo to Ahri, and chunk her as well. And unfortunately, I step up to take an auto attack after I already got the passive off, and I end up getting just barely tagged by the turret. So this ends up like not being a great trade for me, but like really helps my fizz out a lot. But you can see already like the power of, you know, what you can do with this rune. So I'll just let it play a little bit more, but that kind of covers the scenarios, right? And then we'll watch through this game. Like I said, I'll talk about some generic stuff about Braum, and we'll also see how Hail of Blades comes into play in this game. So that's one of the things, is like Guardian and Hail of Blades do 2 very different things. Hail of Blades is going to enable Braum to do a lot more with his passive in the game, and Guardian is going to potentially allow you to save people every once in a while. But some games you're not going to save anybody with Guardian, and so its impact is kind of, I don't want to say inconsistent, but that's basically the way to put it. Like Hail of Blades is consistently going to give you a decent amount of power through your passive and your auto attacks, and Guardian is going to, in some situations, make a big difference. One of the things you could think of, I guess, is like, how many times a game do you think that you save somebody's life with Guardian? Like where they would have 100% died without Guardian. Not like you used Guardian on them when they were low, but like they would have died for sure without Guardian. And I think that the answer is probably like less than 1. It's probably like 0.9. Like you know, on average, you almost save 1 person's life a game with Guardian, let's say, right? With Hail of Blades, if you think you can get an extra kill, like 1 extra kill a game because you have Hail of Blades, then Hail of Blades is already doing like as much work as Guardian, basically. And so that's one way to think about it. So now look at this too. So they get level 2 first, and Alistar comes in and combos me. This is another thing that I really like about Hail of Blades. Do you see? It's kind of hard to see because there's a lot of glowing effects going on right here. But this happens with, let's say, a Nautilus hook or an Alistar combo or a lot of things. Normally, if Braum tries to auto-attack the Alistar when he's comboing him, or auto-attack Nautilus when Braum gets hooked, Braum's not going to be able to auto-attack fast enough to put the passive down on them. So normally, the way that you want to play this trade is you can't try to auto-attack. You need to hit Q as they're coming into you. So if Nautilus is going to hook you with Q, Leona is going to hit you with E, or Alistar is going to combo you, you just throw Q in the direction that they're coming from, and that's the way that you apply the passive. What's really cool, so normally if you were to auto attack any of those champions during an interaction like that or a trade like that, normally the way that this would play out is their CC would go off fast enough to cancel your auto attack, so that if you tried to auto while Leona was going to E you, or you tried to auto a Nautilus who was queuing into you, you tried to auto the Alistar who's comboing into you, your auto attack would go off too slow to put the passive on. What's cool is with Hail of Blades, it increases your attack speed enough, even on the first auto, right? It increases the animation speed, that you can see with, I'm able to get my auto attack off. Actually, I do a really incredible buffer here. I get an auto attack off and Q off, I think. Let me see. It's a little bit hard to see. Let's slow it down and see what... But I think in a lot of situations, like I'm talking about, that specific interaction with a lot of these champions where you're about to get CC'd, Hail of Blades makes your first auto attack quick enough that you're able to get it off before you get CC'd and like guaranteed put your passive down on them, which is really important. That's actually something, a matchup I've really been struggling with is against Pyke, because his CC will, I don't know, just the way that the trades tend to go, Braum tends to not be able to, like, I worry about trying to throw my Q at a champion like that can be so mobile coming at me. And if I'm able to just auto attack him before I get stunned by his E, or like as I'm getting hooked by his Q, that's really, really big because it guarantees my passive on them and like lets my AD carry trade back on them as best as they can. Okay, so in this case scenario, I actually didn't get the auto attack off, but the only reason why I didn't get the auto attack off is because I autoed him and I was like 90% of the way through the animation, and then I queued at the last second when my auto was about to go off. And then the only reason why there's 2 stacks is because I had just autoed after, but it was my Q that first applied the passive. But the principle still stands, which is you can auto attack fast enough if you have Hail of Blades. It enables you to auto attack fast enough that you can guaranteed apply your passive to an Alistar or a Nautilus or something like that who's coming in at you without having to hit Q. And that's really big because not having, like if you miss Q, the trade goes disastrously for you. If Leona comes in on you and you don't Q her when she's Eing into you, or Nautilus Qs you and you don't Q him when he's Qing into you, same thing with Alistar, Rel, W, things like that. Being able to just rely on the auto attacks is really big. And then of course, if you are using the Hail of Blades auto attacks after your passive is already procced, that's okay too, because of course Braum passive makes it so that your auto attacks deal additional magic damage. Oh, it's barely anything though. Never mind. I mean, it's not ideal if you get extra auto attacks after the passive actually with Hail of Blades, but it does do a little bit of extra magic damage right on Braum passive. This is a rough lane. Like level 1 there were some shenanigans and our team's ahead off of the level 1, and obviously like with the RA trade and stuff like that, I put myself behind on potions and XP and stuff like that, but it helped our mid laner and helped the rest of our team. So obviously like bot lane's a little bit of a rough spot in this game in particular. Also like MF is able to focus a lot. So we've got Graves hovering here. We're level 2 now. I talked about this in the Braum guide, but usually if we were in a spot like this and Graves had full clear to top and was like over here right now near top lane, I would take E second so that I just mitigate the poke. Excuse me. I just mitigate the poke that I'm taking. Whereas here I've taken W because I assume Graves is going to look to come in here. Or at least we have the option of doing that. But Graves actually goes to contest the Scuttle Crab here. And obviously, like, it's hard for us to get out there because the bot lane's stronger than us. And you can see here I just Q him again. Kind of used to playing the fight out that way. And it's a pretty good trade onto him. So Graves gets the crab, but now he's moved away from bot lane. We just can't quite get the kill here. I do want to point out, this is something I do a lot. You can see that before I jump in here, I tend to play really far back. This, I didn't do it too much here, but like on Braum, you want them to think that you're really not looking to go in, and then all of the sudden W really far forward to a minion. So what you can do on Braum is really quickly change your positioning in the lane because of W, right? So don't, like, if you want to go in on the Alistar because he's 200 HP and we can kill him, don't stand, you know, like a lot of people might stand in the bush even though he's warded it, like up here, trying to get close to the Alistar and just hitting him with the Q. You know, don't stand like up here, you know, next to your two melee minions. I'm standing all the way back here, even slightly behind Xayah. And the reason for this is because I want to, like, lull them into a sense of comfort. I want to engage at my maximum range so that they feel as safe as possible. So I could be positioning up here and forcing MF off of the wave and Alistar off of the wave, but then there's no chance that we kill them because they're just going to have to back up to tower and let us shove. So rather than zoning them off of the wave, I'm playing behind Xayah here, but I can W to this minion right here. And so boom, we split, MF walks back, I walk back, and then when MF walks back up, although he doesn't walk up very far, but basically we pull apart and then we come together, and then when we come together I close the gap as hard as I can, and unfortunately, like, we're just, Alistar's just slightly too far away for us to get on top of him. But that's kind of the idea, is like bait them in, like engage at your maximum range so that they feel like they have a lot of room and there's no way they can get killed from such a safe spot when they're so far away from it. Because unless they know exactly what Braum's engage range is with his like W and Q, then they're gonna let you do that. Especially in lower elos, they're just gonna not respect that you can do anything there because they're not gonna know what range you have, and then they're gonna walk up there. So at this point we get the wave in though, and then we just kind of need to leave because this situation, like, Graves is topside and the situation's just too volatile. So I want to recall here, and we actually totally could have, but Xayah stays, so I end up staying with him. And this is another point, right, especially in lower elos, is that you should play around, not that this is super low elo, but you should play around your teammates, not just like abandon them and do whatever you want. Oh, hold on, I missed it. So like I want to recall here, probably a good idea because we don't have any jungle support and like our wave is pushed up far and we got it into the turret and we're all low, and so this is a very volatile situation. So I jump in onto the MF, but unfortunately I hit Q onto a minion. So I just auto her once and then hit Q on a minion. And so I don't really do anything with Hail of Blades there, but again it's 12-second cooldown, so it's okay to look. It's basically always going to be up. Right, I mean, if you think of Braum's like W and E cooldown, you know, your W cooldown here is already 11 seconds. Hail of Blades is on a 12-second cooldown. So every time your W is up, Hail of Blades is going to be up. So you can get really aggressive with this. And I do some things in this game, and I've been doing some things recently in some of my games that are pretty aggressive. And the reason why is because I'm trying to see what I can and can't get away with and do on Halo Blades Braum. Obviously, it's going to enable you to play more aggressive, but still trying to figure out where that limit is. My Graves just dashes into the wall like a classic NA high elo player. And we're still in this volatile situation bot lane. At least Graves is down to our side of the map, but we like their jungler could be here. We could look. I don't. Yeah, neither of us have trinket, so like we should probably just reset. But my AD carry really wants to stay, so we're just making sure he doesn't get killed to their jungler or something. This is another thing I do too, is sometimes, even if I'm playing the bush, right, like I'm hiding in the bush, a lot of times, right, they're going to have to assume and respect that you are potentially in the furthest spot up in the bush you could be, right? And sometimes, even though in theory, like the whole point of being in the bush is that you don't want them to know where you are, sometimes I want to walk out of the bush here and like show them, hey, I'm not as threatening to you as you think. This is the same concept as we were talking about earlier with like backing up and then lulling them into walking up. Same thing here. Like if I'm sitting in this bush, they're going to have to play super safe because they're assuming that I'm here in the corner of this bush. Whereas if I show, like walk out of the bush and show that I'm here, sometimes it's better to not play the bush even when you have control of it, or to at least show them for a couple of seconds like, hey, I'm hovering around this area of the bush. I'm not actually going in on you. I'm not actually going in on you. You know, and then they walk up too far and then boom, you W in. So Alistar comes in. I do the same thing here with W again. And then this is really cool. So with Hail of Blades here, I'm able to W in and get 3 auto attacks onto MF on my own, which enables us to switch targets here. Graves comes in and just W ults them over the wall and they both die. But let's take a look at this, right? Because this is another kind of new concept that Hail of Blades enables you to do on Braum that I think is really, really nice about it, is in this case, at first, we have to trade onto Alistar because he's like the only one in range for us to hit, right? But notice how instead of just hitting the Alistar over and over again, because I haven't used Hail of Blades at all yet, rather than just like using it on Alistar and then like autoing him twice after he's stunned or something, which wouldn't do as much as stunning MF, I W forward to a minion and start autoing MF. And like Xayah is totally free hitting on Alistar, so it's fine. And then because I've put 3 stacks on MF, we're able to stun her here after and chunk them out. So maybe this isn't the best example, because if Graves wasn't here to clean this up, actually, I probably should have just hit Alistar to kill him in this particular example, right? But the point is that what it enables you to do is sometimes you'll go in on one person. Even if you use one of the Hail of Blades auto attacks, it lasts for a little bit. So if you reposition with W and auto the other person 2 times, or if you haven't used Hail of Blades yet, you W and then auto the other person 3 times, you can often surprise them by switching focus really fast with Hail of Blades. So in a situation where normally you'd only be able to stun Alistar here with your passive, Hail of Blades has uniquely influenced this situation so that both of them got stunned. And both of them took a lot of chunk damage from the passive, and then they cleared out here. And we're just resetting here. Xayah should actually take a plate here, in hindsight, right? Like, all he needs to do is throw 1 auto attack and then go recall in the bush here, and he would get this plate. Instead, the plate just dies to the minions. You know, their bot lane's dead, their jungler was dead too, and we can see that. So, like, he's totally free to hit this. We're not in a position to help Graves here, so this is totally fine because he was able to solo the dragon, and we didn't have time to help him basically. But Xayah could have picked up the plate for free, and then I'm just coming back from base, but I come towards mid lane because like nothing's happening bot. Our wave is still waiting to push back into us, and it just so happens, right, that like they end up fighting mid. Alistar's here too. Now this is an unfortunate situation, right, because Fizz dies to ignite here. It's possible, right, we can say that in this particular game, in this particular circumstance, if I had Guardian, Fizz might have lived, although he was 1 HP, so he might have died even through Guardian take, because Guardian shield does not last like the full 5 seconds. So 1, 2, yeah, I mean he would have had to, Guardian would have had to last like 3 or 4 ticks, so he might have died through Guardian anyways there. It's hard to say. I'm willing to think that he would have died through Guardian anyways, because the Ignite still had like 4 ticks left. So we get ourselves into a really bad situation here because Fizz ends up diving the turret. And I'm flashing over here, and then I'm kiting it out. And this is another thing that's really great, is look at this use of Halo Blades here. So another thing that Braum normally can't do all that well is obviously like kite. Or I guess he can with an 80 carry, but on his own, Braum can't really kite. Look at what I was able to do to Talon. I just half-healthed Talon, right? And am able to give myself a huge amount of distance by actually stunning him instead of just slowing him with the Q. Now, Xayah's not really paying attention, and so she wasn't even moving yet to this situation, even though I had been running all the way over here and flashed all the way back here. I have W, but luckily she does end up getting here in time. I miss Q. She ends up like not ulting at a good angle either. She healed me. I don't know if I actually needed the heal. It would have been close. So I just make it out of there. But, you know, even though it's not the best situation, like our team in general like didn't play this all that well. You can see how Halo Blades can allow you to stun somebody when they're chasing you and then get out in a way that maybe you couldn't before. And same thing happens like if their jungler comes, right, you'll be in a lot of situations where their jungler will come bot and you'll be kiting them back towards your turret. And the fact that Braum can assist in putting the passive on them really quickly, not just putting the passive on them, but like getting the passive off on them really quickly. The fact that Braum can assist in that is really big. So that's a game changer as well. And then another thing Halo Blades has or does that I mentioned in the Braum guide is that, so here we're just same thing, right? Like the bot wave is kind of slow pushing back towards us because we have 2 melee minions, they have 3, and so we're just waiting for this to come. Xayah's not even in the lane yet, so we're totally fine. And what I'm doing here is I'm shadowing mid and potentially going to like come in here and help Fizz if he gets himself in any trouble here. And so I'm just sitting off of the enemy team's vision, right? So I'm sitting off the enemy team's vision, and then I want to run up and W if they go in on Fizz or if Fizz goes in. Unfortunately, Fizz just whiffs his ult, and so I come in because he's obviously started a fight, and then I get charmed by Ahri, and Talon goes invisible with his ult here. And Talon and I end up trading 1-for-1, which is not great, but not terrible. Probably better for us, right? Because I'm not farming, and Talon's their jungler to be farming. But then Alistar comes in, and now Fizz is dead too. So that's... But that's the idea, even though, again, this particular situation didn't work out well. So, it's, you know, it's a fine hover here. So I was saying another thing that Halo Blades does that I kind of mentioned in the guide is it's got this gimmicky element to it, which is, let's say with the Talon here or with the MF here, there's a lot of situations, I think, where people don't expect you to get the passive off that quickly. And so I've seen a lot of situations in the game, I've been trying it. We just talked about their jungler coming in. Junglers are oftentimes already surprised at how well they get kited by a Braum and his AD carry. Trust me, when Braum is also attacking just as fast as his AD carry is, they're like instantly stunned by the two of you if he's running into you. This is a really great thing, is in a lot of these scenarios, especially early game, right, we're looking at scenarios where I'm jumping in with W. I've talked about this before. In the early game, you know, a lot of times the way you're using W is you're jumping in with W and trying to fight the opponent. In team fights, you're hoping that they run into you. They're obviously not just going to run into you too much in laning phase, although this Alistar actually seems to, which shows that he doesn't really understand the matchup. But when people just run into you during team fights, I've had stuff where like Rakan will run into me in a team fight, and I'll just like auto him with Hail of Blades, and he'll just like instantly get stunned. Because you like don't even have to kite between auto attacks in a team fight if somebody's running into you. You don't even need to rely on your teammates like helping you stun them. You just super fast, you're stunning people in fights if they're ever running at your team, which is really big. And then like I said, their jungler comes to gank you bot, and it's the same thing. They're surprised at how fast they're getting stunned and how much damage they're taking when the passive goes off. Next thing you know, they're just dead. So here I end up dying and trading 1-for-1. I probably should have walked forward. I wonder if I had walked forward if I would have actually lived. But this is a totally fine 1-for-1 because it, again, gives a kill over to my AD carry and puts a death on their AD carry, which is better for us. And then of course their AD carry loses these minion wave, or this minion wave, and our AD carry gets a plate. So it's a totally fine 1-for-1 unless you're a KDA player. And so, you know, again, we can stop at different points and kind of think about the impact that Guardian would have versus Hail of Blades. And I feel like in a lot of these situations, really all Guardian would do is block a little bit of non-lethal damage that wouldn't really change very much about the way that the game's playing out. Maybe here when Fizz is ignited and I W to him earlier in the game, maybe Guardian would have saved him. But again, he had like 4 ticks of Ignite left. So I think Guardian would have expired before that. He would have gotten hit with the last tick and died anyways. Maybe not. No, maybe he would have saved enough health while Guardian was shielding him for the few ticks that it would have shielded him for, that he would have had enough health to survive the last couple of ticks. I don't really know. It's kind of hard to say. So it's really close. He may or may not have died if I had Guardian there. And like I said, that's kind of what the question comes down to. They're actually pretty close. It's like, if you think you can save multiple people with Guardian in game, then, you know, Hail of Blades has to be able to, like, net you extra kills that you wouldn't have been able to get without Hail of Blades. So you can see Alistar running into me here, just gets stunned up really quickly with the Hail of Blades, and then we're able to walk out. And we've already got Hail of Blades back up again. And kills himself. I actually didn't do a whole lot with the Hail of Blades there, because I just autoed Talon once and then he went invisible with his ult, and I was able to get one more auto attack off after he was done with his ult, but then our team just stunned him under the turret. That's the other thing though, is like using the Hail of Blades situationally. Like if I'm more used to using Hail of Blades, probably don't want to auto attack right here, where I auto-attacked Talon the first time. Although I kind of thought my team might do something. But I don't really want to auto-attack Talon there. I would want to like start autoing him here, so that I guarantee the stun really quickly on my own, even if my teammates weren't willing to walk up and do it. So if I don't know if the situation would play out the same if I don't walk up and auto him, but I could walk up the same way without autoing him, wait for him to ult, right, and run away, and then as soon as he shows from his ult, then I could auto him multiple times. We might stun him out here, and even if he doesn't jump into the turret, we might still bait him and kill him. Stuff like that. So there was a game, for example, I was playing against a Karthus, And so if I'm playing against a Karthus, right, if we really want to get into the nuances of it, because it does seem like Hail of Blades and Guardian are kind of close. I mean, these are rough estimates, but let's say that like Hail of Blades nets you 1 extra kill per game, Guardian saves like 0.9 people on average per game. They're pretty close, right? So, boom, look at how fast we're getting this stun off there. To just pick Alistar, again, it's really easy when they're running into you to get the stun off with this. But I was going to say, so if that's the effect that they're having, but you're in a game like, okay, we're against a Karthus. Well, now Guardian's going to be more impactful because every time Karthus holds, you know, I could potentially be Wing to someone with Guardian and saving them from Karthus hold.
Rampage.
So in a game versus a Karthus, kind of a good idea to go Guardian. It's even kind of a good idea to go Locket instead of Radiant, even though I think that's kind of blasphemy. So this game against Karthus recently, I went Guardian and Locket Redemption instead of Radiant Redemption. And that was pretty good, although I think we ended up losing the game. But in a lot of other circumstances, I think Hail of Blades is better. It's definitely, obviously, a more aggressive setup than Guardian is. So potentially, if you think that they're close enough, you could take them situationally. So we've talked about, you know, who's the beatdown in the Braum guide, and in a separate video. So if it's a game where you want to take Ignite, maybe you should be taking Hail of Blades. And if it's a game where you want to be taking Exhaust and you want to just try to scale, then Guardian could be better. Here, I could have E'd backwards. I don't know if it would have saved me or not, but what killed me was the second part of the REQ. So if I had blocked that with E by E'ing backwards instead of towards her, I would have at least lived for a little bit longer there. And then unfortunately, I started Hail of Blades auto attack, but then she charmed me, so I didn't really get to use Hail of Blades to stun her myself there. Other thing, like with this situation, it's a little bit long after, but Cassante like stayed top and didn't really rotate down to help me. Otherwise, there's just no way I die to Ahri if he doesn't leave me there. But it's fine. Ultimately, Hail of Blades is going to provide more damage. You know, I'm seeing somewhere between like 20 to 25 Hail of Blades auto attacks a game. So it's providing more damage. In some of those instances, right, it's meaning that you're getting to proc a passive you wouldn't get to proc otherwise. In some of those cases, if you proc a passive you wouldn't have procced otherwise, it'll result in a kill that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Question is how much? And that's a little bit of a difficult question to answer, especially since we don't have a lot of games on it and we don't have a lot of data. Luckily on NA right now, you can actually see the win rate stats on Hail of Blades now. Now, about 90% of those games are just me. A little bit of a whiffy there on the ult, but then Talon comes right back into it. There it goes. Their Talon's kind of griefing. Oh yeah, he is. He's 2 and 9. So here we dodge out the REQ, we dodge out the Everfrost. This is kind of like just spacing him and baiting him because I have low HP. Cassante dies. But you get the idea. Guardian is going to provide some healing and shielding that doesn't necessarily... And then I Space Riven here too. It's going to provide some healing, or not healing, it's going to provide shielding, right, that's going to like not result in much other than like people having a little bit more HP. But in some situations it's like making a real impact. It's like preventing somebody from dying. And in other situations it's just like somebody gets out of a fight with 400 HP instead of 200 HP because Guardian went off on them when they were low, but they wouldn't have died anyways. Same thing with Hail of Blades. Like in some situations, Hail of Blades, you're getting passive off, you're autoing them really quickly, but you're autoing twice with Hail of Blades after your stun already went off on the person, and so it's just allowing you to deal a little bit of extra damage to them after your passive's already gone off, but it's not like translating into an extra kill, because that person would have basically died whether you autoed them an extra time or not after you already stunned them. Sometimes it's stunning somebody though, like I was saying, where they wouldn't have gotten stunned before. And as I said, there's a lot of scenarios where that can happen because it allows you to solo stun people in a way that you really can't do otherwise on Braum. It enables you to miss Q, and then if your AD carry gets, you know, an auto or two off on them, they'll still get stunned. So there's a lot of scenarios where you miss Q and it's going to still allow you to stun them. And there's a lot of scenarios where you would get 3 stacks, you would be stuck at 3 stacks of your passive. Those are like the most frustrating, right? So you've got like a decent engage on Braum in the lane, but you only get 3 stacks off. That's like really frustrating scenario, and to be able to make all of those scenarios into situations where you just get the stun off and kill them instead is like really good. But that's the question right now, so we'll just have to play some Hail of Blades Braum and kind of see how it's doing win rate wise over a much larger number of games. And certainly they could be interchangeable. So here's another little thing that I do. Braum E gives 10% movement speed. So a lot of times, right, if you're leaving Fountain, especially with Home Guard on, after you've died or like later into the game, I think Home Guard comes up at like 14 minutes now after turret plating falls. This 10% movement speed is going to make you faster coming out of base. And your shield will be up by the time you get into the lane, unless they're like at your inhibitor turret or something, right? So, you know, you can see, like, by the time I get anywhere near where anything's going to happen, I'm going to have my E up. So you definitely don't want to, like, do this too much to the point where you put your E on cooldown when you need it. But yeah, this ended up being a not so good redemption. But that's just another little efficiency thing that you can do. You just got to be careful to make sure you don't waste your E and then like walk into a fight at your second tier turret or something where you still on cooldown. So this is a pretty standard one. Actually end up getting caught here, although we do kill out Scar after. A little bit of a bad flash here too. I'm also going to be making, this video is going to be just more for fun, but I'm going to be making a montage of Hail of Blades Braum. My other montage video did really well, and it's just a really satisfying keystone to use. It feels so good, and it's so nice to watch somebody auto attack really quickly on Braum. So I'm gonna put one of those together. I think it'll be good. But that's pretty much it for this game. You know, maybe we'll look at some other ones, but that's essentially what it comes down to, right? Is Guardian and Hail of Blades both do 2 different things, but the question is, what is their, I don't quite know what to call it. what does their impact actually translate to in terms of like a tangible impact? So are you using Guardian and it's just blocking a little bit of damage, or are you using Guardian and it saves somebody's life? Are you using Halo Blades to just get a little bit of extra damage off, or are you using Halo Blades in a way that like stuns somebody who wouldn't have been stunned otherwise, and now you kill them? And that's, you know, it's just going to depend on how the game plays out. Some games, it's going to play out where if you had Guardian in a certain situation, it would save somebody's life, and some games you're going to play, you know, and if you had Halo Blades, you would have stunned somebody who you left on 3 hits, and you would have killed them, but because you didn't, you didn't. It's going to be a question of which one's performing better. Also, like how the secondary runes are doing compared to each other, because obviously there's like a big shift in the secondary runes as well. Like, is it better to do a bunch of extra damage with Cheap Shot versus, you know, like healing your teammates with Font of Life? Is it, you know, is the item acceleration, like I talked about, that you get from Treasure Hunter worth the damage reduction you might lose from something, you know, like bone plating, or the healing that you would get from Overgrowth? So those are complicated questions to answer when they're all happening at the same time. They're just too difficult to cross compare, like I said. But I think from playing Halo Blades in game, it certainly feels good. And it feels like it's having just as much of an impact, if not more, than Guardian. So like I said, we're just going to have to play some games and see how it goes. Unfortunately, like I said, right now, the statistics are not looking great for Halo Blades, but that's because it's on such a, you know, it's such a small sample size of games. I can't emphasize this enough. I'm having a bit of a rough run in solo queue right now this season, and I'm a little bit washed. And so I blame myself. Look, I'm 90% of these Halo Blades games that are showing up on op.gg for Braum right now, they're actually kind of difficult to even find them. Oh, I can't even find them. Oh, maybe because it's a new patch. Maybe we've got the reset we were looking for. So we'll see. You know, ultimately, if there's like 16 games of a sample size of it, you can't really judge it versus Guardian, because the 16 games have more to do with where I'm at mentally and how focused I am in my games than they have to do with how good Halo Blades is. So, you know, if I were to go on a 16 game win streak or something with Halo Blades, that doesn't mean Halo Blades is better than Guardian. And if I, you know, lose a bunch of games because I'm coming off of a vacation and I'm washed up, that doesn't mean Halo Blades is necessarily bad. So hopefully we can get a patch. I'd like to see a patch on NA where we get like at least 100 games of Halo Blades on Braum, and like Emerald Plus or whatever. And if we can do that, then we might have like a little bit more data to compare how it's doing to Guardian. But it's gonna be tough to compare. But yeah, it definitely changes a lot of situations. And like I said, I feel like Guardian is wasted a lot of the time, unfortunately, because it doesn't synergize as well as you would think it would with Braum W, because it's just going off at random times all of the time. And Halo Blades, like I said, in so many different ways, whether it's level 1, whether it's cheesing, whether it's, you know, you kiting their jungler, or you kiting people back solo, or like your ability to trade and fight people solo, or whether you're in a situation where you would only get 3 hits of your passive and now you get 4 and they get stunned, or you were only going to get 2 hits of your passive but now you're able to get 3, and then your AD carry is able to get 1 extra auto attack on top of what you were able to do with Halo Blades, and so now you've stunned them in a situation they wouldn't have been stunned in before. It allows you to switch targets really quickly. Like if you just queue one target and your AD carries wailing on them, and then all of a sudden you switch focus to another champion, you know, you can stun both of them really quickly in a way that you can't normally do on Braum. So it does a whole lot. And if you think about it on paper, obviously Braum having a very, very strong, powerful 4-hit passive that does a lot of damage and stun somebody, you know, taking a rune that allows you to auto attack 3 times very quickly, obviously synergizes pretty well with the champion. Guardian also does in certain situations, but and at least, there's room to say that like Guardian might be good in certain situations and Halo Blades might be good in others. If you're playing with a really aggressive lane partner, trying to win early, you're playing with a Draven or something like that who wants to fight all the time, and you're taking Ignite anyways, and you're going to get outscaled or something like that, you might as well take Halo Blades and try to play it aggressively and get super far ahead in the lane and have better cheesing. If you're, outscaling them and want to peel back and team fight, you're playing against, abilities that are used right when somebody's about to die, like Karthus ult, and there are others, right? Then, like Caitlyn ult, Karthus ult, Jinx ult. If you're playing against those things, you might consider taking Guardian, because you're probably in those games in particular, how many times you're going to save somebody's life with Guardian on average might go up, right, from like 1 time a game to like 2 times a game. And so in those games you would want to take Guardian, and in other games you wouldn't. Look out for some other videos that I'm going to be dropping. Again, 99.9% of people are not subscribed, so really appreciate it if you give the video a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.